Hello, welcome to The Conversation on News Central Television. This is a program where we bring you up to speed with all the political happenings on the African continent. I am Gbenga Aborowa.
And I'm Rita Omodia. Today on The Conversation, we'll be turning our attention to Nigeria, where ahead of the 2023 election, the Labour Party presidential candidate Peter Obi, the INEC chairman, and the presidential candidate of New Nigeria People's Party, NNPP, appeared at the Chatham House earlier this week to speak on Nigeria's election coming up in a few weeks' time.
And in the second half of the program, we will be switching gears to Zimbabwe, as Zimbabwe's opposition activists appeared in court seeking bail after they were arrested by the police during a police raid at a private residence for unlawful gathering. Interesting times in African politics. It's the year of elections, just like last year, 2023. Kenyans, the economic powerhouse of East Africa, had theirs. Nigeria is having its elections, Liberia too. So quite a lot to look forward to.
Definitely, quite a lot to look for. And of course, we see the presidential candidates all coming up with their agendas, with their mandate of how to bring a better Nigeria, talking about economy, security. I think most of them are still hampering on that. We saw NNPP candidate. He talked about education also.
Yes.
There are a lot of things that the candidates talked about.
So we look forward to engaging with our special analyst today to, pick their brains and what they make of the politicking that has been happening as Nigeria heads to the polls. Now, popularly known for housing exchange of ideas, open expression, research and knowledge, a think tank, a policy forum, though located in the United Kingdom, has become the latest warehouse for Nigerian politicians contesting this year's presidential elections to air their plans for Nigerians. Starting the trend last year at the Chatham House, also known as the Royal Institute for International Affairs, was a presidential candidate of the ruling All Progressive Congress, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who, while unveiling his electoral agenda, depicted his ability to delegate responsibilities to members of his would-be cabinet in the manner of teamwork, seemingly catching the attention of the youths with his charisma. Presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Peter Obi, who has become a strong third force, was present at Chatham House on Monday to present his mandate if elected as Nigeria's next president. He further spoke on his plan to rid Africa's most industrious nation of corruption, insecurity, ethnic tensions and hyper agitations.
Meanwhile, the country's chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, Mahmud Yakubu, who unveiled himself at the forum on Tuesday, revealed that records on the ground show that the election will be dominated by the Nigerian youths, while also dispelling any rumors of postponing the elections. Recently joining the list of presidential candidates, despite minimal media attention, is New Nigeria People's Party NNPP candidate Kwankwaso. He reeled out plans on unifying the country, particular focus on the country's education and inclusive service delivery. Let's have a listen.
How to be talk about vote buying. It is also for us an indication of the progress that we are making in our democracy, because it is becoming increasingly clear to everyone that the votes are counting, and that you can't drive a voter long before the election and expect the person is going to vote for you. So follow the person to the polling unit. And even the polling unit, make sure that the person has voted for you. At the end of the day, and I've said this consistently, is enforcement of the laws. There are laws, but the laws are not enforced. So let me seize the opportunity to renew our appeal as a commission for the National Assembly in Nigeria to speedily pass the Electoral Offences Commission bill, so that all violators of our laws shall be penalized accordingly.
It will be the same level playing field for everybody. I want to solve the problem. For example, I said it without equivocation. I must pull out the poverty that is devastating the North. The vast land in the North is far more in terms of assets and source of revenue generation and exports for Nigeria than the oil. It's very simple. And I give you an example of one state that I use every day. Niger State is 76,000 square kilometers, precisely 76.3 thousand square kilometers of land. 7 local governments in that state is under control of bandits. I've tried to interview them because they have no job. They have nothing and everything. Niger State is 2.5 times the size of Netherlands. And Netherlands agricultural export last year was $120 billion. Why can't Niger State do 5% of that?
While we are accusing leaders of being one thing or the other negative, I think the followers also must learn how to be Nigerians, not coming from one part of the country. Let me say that I was one of those initially wanting to work together with Labour Party. But unfortunately, at that time, Labour Party was under very serious media hype, and therefore they could not see reason. And you still not see reason that I will withdraw. I wish you didn't go to that extent. You would have said that to work with Labour or to work with APC or PDP, that would have been more responsible. But you cannot come to London. Maybe people who are here don't even know what is happening. And I want to say that our party, NNPP, is the only growing party in Nigeria today. We have seen the maximum any party, especially the party you mentioned, Labour, to us is like Andrew's Labour salt. Just came, now it's coming down. That's the reality.
And there you have it. It has been 3 days straight of proceedings and hearings and people talking about how best Nigeria can become. And of course, proceedings towards Nigeria's election started from Monday. We had the Labour candidate Peter Obi, and on Tuesday we had the INEC chairman Mahmud Yakubu, and just recently on News Center TV we brought to you where the NNPP candidate Rabi Kwankwaso also gave his details for the Nigeria's 2023 elections. And now joining us for all of this conversation we have Abdul Mahmud, a lawyer and a political analyst. Thank you so much for joining us on the conversation.
Yes, thank you for having me. Good evening, Nigerians, wherever you are, and Happy New Year.
Wish you the same. Happy New Year. And I'm going to start with the statistics from INEC. I mean, we had him on Tuesday, which was different from just presidential candidates coming to the Chatham House and talking. And then he said over 600,000 eligible voters have collected their PVCs in Lagos State alone. We know how popular Lagos State is, while 39% out of 93.4 million registered voters in Nigeria are young people between the ages of 18 and 34. Now, Mr. Mahmud, do you see this turn the tide in this year's election, and how encouraging are the numbers so far?
Well, let me deal with the statistical number that has emerged from Lagos. Just over 600,000 persons or electorates or voters have collected their PVCs. But Professor Mahmud did say as well that in terms of the number that Lagos presents, the Commission still has quite a big volume or vast volume of PVCs that are still lying in their offices across their centers, across the centers in Lagos. The numbers are worrying. Fine. One can say that 600,000 PVCs already collected from Lagos is huge. But if you contextualize that number, 600,000, within the range of cards, in terms of numbers that are lying down in the office of INEC, that 600,000 fails to its significance. But the number also interrogates the larger number that we're dealing with in terms of percentage. 39.8% of Nigerian youths, form that demographic number that we're expecting to vote come 25th of next month. Whether we admit it or not, the future of Nigeria will be changed by this demography. But the change will depend on how the presidential candidates mobilize the numbers in the streets, how they appeal to the youth, what programs are they putting out there that the youths can buy into. Don't forget that the last time I appeared on your platform, I used the phrase, the OB effect. We saw what the effect did between May and August 17 last year, when a vast number of Nigerian youths were mobilized, into the streets to show support, for that presidential candidate. And more importantly, the mobilization that took place within that demography, in which we saw a greater number of Nigerian youths coming out to enroll for the first time, as part.
Sorry to butt in, Abdul Mahmud. I want to take you, because you mentioned the OB effect, and in our opening statement, we did play clips of the presidential candidates at Chatham House. The last presidential candidate that spoke, Musa Rabiu Kwankwaso of the NNPP, I did compare the OB effect to Andrew's liver salt. He said they came out with a bang and there was a lot of noise and razzmatazz, and he says it's fizzling out now. Do you think going to the elections, have they been able to sustain that momentum? And do we still have that OB effect? Are they a force to reckon with?
Well, I think it is something political scientists will have to look into. But within the context of the symbolism, or if you like, the metaphor that Rabiu Kwankwaso used earlier on, there's nothing to suggest that the OB effect or the movement of youth on the streets of our country, is comparable to the active reaction of Andrew Liversalt if you place it in a cup of water. We still see Nigerian youths mobilizing themselves across the length and breadth of our country. We saw what happened in Edo State. We saw what happened in some of the towns and cities in Edo State, Auchi, in Benin. We also saw what happened in Warri and in Asaba, in Agbo, I think in Ibole. And just last week, we saw what happened in Onitsha and Enugu. Whether we admit it or not, the backbone of the OB presidential campaign, or the galaxy that I constantly describe it, are the youths. And we have seen the way they mobilize themselves, they show support, they mobilize resources, they mobilize finance, for the campaign, whether at home or abroad. And for some of us who took the opportunity, even while we were far from the center of action in London, to keep abreast with the development at the Chatham House on Monday, we saw what happened when the doors of Chatham House was flung open. What happened? Nigerian youths, graciously embraced a young man, albeit at 61, who they've come to accept as their symbol of their vision, their hope for tomorrow. I think Kwankwaso is correct here. One thing I take away from the presentation of Kwankwaso today is the ego and the hubris he displayed. A simple question was asked of him, and I expected him to show that genial, menial, suave and a moral appeal to all segments of Nigerian society. What he did was to promote his ego, and in the most embarrassing way for me. And look, it is for Nigerians to decide who becomes their president, in 2023. It is not for presidential candidates to show hubris and ego, and that's what I found very disappointing in the latter presentation of Kwankwaso today.
Okay. All right, we'll go deeper into his presentation. I mean, while you may call it ego, some people will call it confidence of Kwankwaso. But aside from youthful demography, let's look at, we had this presentation at Chatham House at the United Kingdom, and Nigeria has about 15 to 17 million of its citizens in diaspora who contribute to the nation's external reserves, yet the law requires that voters must reside in the country, and the petition for diaspora voting has been defeated over time at the National Assembly. You're a lawyer, you're a political analyst. From over the years, this has been a major issue in Nigeria, diaspora voting. What do you think is the major hindrance to diaspora voting in Nigeria's elections?
Incidentally, I was involved in the last legislative process. I was the consultant to the PDP caucus in the House of Representatives. I saw both bills that were drafted by the PDP caucuses in the Senate and also the House of Representatives that basically demanded for that opportunity for Nigerians in diaspora to exercise their franchise in national elections. Unfortunately, it did not happen. I think the reasons that were given by both leadership of the two chambers of the National Assembly bordered around the technical expertise of the Independent National Electoral Commission to conduct elections across countries around the world. I think a summation of what transpired in the conversation in the Senate, for example, there were senators who were insistent on the fact that it will become practically impossible where internet connectivity is basically so difficult in countries in Africa. Why it is easier? I'm in Houston, US, talking to you now, and the communication is easy. Some people will argue that given the same opportunity in capitals of countries like N'Djamena in Niger, would it be easy for you to have the same conversation because of the internet penetration or connectivity we have in Africa? So these were some of the technical problems that were raised by senators and also members of the House of Representatives. It was on account of that the bill presented by the caucus, the PDP caucus in the two chambers of the National Assembly, were defeated. Our hope is that by the morning of 11th of June 2023, when the 10th National Assembly, will be sworn in, new process will be initiated, new movement will emerge on the need for us to incorporate provisions in our constitution that allows Nigerians who are abroad to take part in our national elections. That residency clause or hindrance put in place by our current provision should be taken out. My hope that from June later this year, Nigerians will join that movement in demanding for the removal. But it also gets to do with the attitude of our politicians. They are very slow to change, and that is what worries me. Whatever approach we adopt, there will always be problems. But as we move along the road, as we kick the can down the road, some of these problems that we encounter will be surmounted. That's what I think. That was a foresight, that was lacking among members of our National Assembly who sat over the two bills in both arms of the National Assembly late last year. Unfortunately, it didn't happen. Just like Professor Mahmud said, the bill on the Electoral Offences Commission, hasn't been passed, at the level of concurrence by the House of Representatives. It has to do with interest as well. People who read themselves into public offices are always very reticent to bring bills, that will not serve their benefit or interest.
Now, Abdul, Mahmud, still talking about the Chatham House appearances, what impact do these conferences at the Royal Institute of International Affairs in England have on Nigerians? Nigeria is thousands of miles away from London. We had the leading front runners, the major political gladiators. They were all present, including the head of Nigeria's electoral umpire, INEC. So what's the impact of this conference, and why is it important?
It is important. The world has become global. We will become interconnected, either at the level of statecraft governance or at the level of national governance. And when you find political parties and institutions who are run by nationals of their country, that the resources that come into the development, if you like, of these institutions come from abroad. It is important for us to restate the importance of these institutions from abroad. Let's take, for example, the Chatham House itself is an international think tank. Whoever stands at the podium there and address, the audience present in the house, it's also addressing the world. The same way that you appear at the Shangri-La Global Dialogue, the dialogue in Singapore. When you stand at the podium there, what you do is interrogate issues, make your Southeast Asian audience to understand where you are coming from. But for me, the most important effect here is this. It allows Nigerian politicians, it allows Nigerian technocrats to sell what I believe are those ideas that will help in taking Nigeria from the morass that's found itself, and to solicit support of the international community. That's what I think Obi did. That's what I think that Kwankwaso did this morning, and that's what I think that Tinubu did late last year. and also the chairman of the National Electoral Commission. But I've had people say that this whole idea of running to London, smacks of colonialism. My response will be this: your political parties, the expertise that they gain, they garner this expertise from such international institutions like International Republican Institute, the National Democratic Institute, both institutions that are America rooted. And your independent National Electoral Commission get its technical expertise and some financial resources from the European Union, from all sorts of foundations in the West. So this whole argument about colonialism is not rich. Okay. Not rich to me.
All right. Thank you so much, Abdul Mahmud. I'd like to bring in now Olayinka Oyegbile. Thank you so much for joining us. He's a journalist and a writer based in Lagos, Nigeria. Olayinka, if you were here with us, we're looking at the different appearances at the Chatham House. We saw the Labour Party candidate Peter Obi, we saw the INEC chair, and we also saw the NNPP candidate Kwankwaso coming out. And I'm going to stay a bit on the Labour Party's candidate Peter Obi, which happened on Monday. Now, he spoke a lot about so many things, talking about reaching out corruption, also the power sector, and even ethnic division going on in the country. Now, due to the fact that we're running out of time, I want to look at the ethnic division in the country. Now, he talked about bringing all the sides together. What do you think is a major hindrance of ethnic unity in Nigeria? And what was your observance of Peter Obi's presentation? Olayinka, can you hear me? Okay, while we try to get in Olayinka, I would like to direct that question to Abdul Mahmud. So the floor is yours, please.
I take away as profound and astounding contribution that Peter Obi made on Monday was his argument around the expansion and growth of our national economy. Don't forget that he mentioned an American economist who died almost 50 years or 60 years ago, Ragnar Noxley. The argument that the point that Obi put in the public space on Monday is this: how do we expand and grow our national economy? Obi built his argument against the thesis proposed by Noxley almost 60 years ago, that savings are key to investment, that the only way the national economy of a country can grow is when we begin to couple industrialization and agricultural revolution, and enthrone that big push towards not only industrialization, but growth and expansion of the economy itself. I think that was a profound position that will be pushed in the public space. But more importantly, he also talked about the conflict our country is facing at the moment, the crisis that has engulfed our country, and his resolve to address it. And how is he going to go about it? By talking to the ethnic nationalities that exist in our country, the bad boys today that have carried arms, institute a framework, institute some mechanism of conversation, of discussion, of people coming to a common table to argue, to put what hurts them, and on the basis of that, arrive at some consensus. I think those are important takeaways from Obi's presentation on Monday.
Thank you very much for your time, insight, and contribution, Abdul Mahmud, lawyer and political analyst, join us live from Houston, Texas, in the United States. We do appreciate your contribution to the program, as always. Thank you.
Thank you.